expecting a massive week next week in terms of for the hyperscalers. I think Apple, the bears have owned this narrative. They will prove the doubters. A little weak in terms of China. I think overall they actually beat numbers. I think Apple is one that this sort of marks the bottom that we believe we'll see for the year in Apple.
Dan, let's go there. Spend a little bit more time on Apple. The stock is down about 10% year to date, which is really unusual for that name here. Give us what the concerns are specifically about phone sales in China.
Look, and let's go through numbers too. Look, China has been soft clearly the last few quarters in terms of what we've seen with the headwinds there in the market. But when it comes to the AI release, Apple Intelligence, that we believe that's actually not going to get released till April. Baidu, Tencent, ByteDance likely going to be the partner. Is it a little softer? It's about 2 to 3% softer in China. So just to put numbers around it, Street was anticipating 225 million units for the year. We believe right now it's tracking about 230 million, 5 million ahead. Mm-hmm. The best case was 240 million. So maybe that's off the table. Paul and Tom, I think this is as way overdone sell-off as I've seen on Apple in a number of years.
Dan, talk to us about Palantir. That's a name that maybe not a lot of people know when they think about these big tech stocks. And I know you guys have been aggressive on this name, and it's been just such a great performer. Over the trailing 12 months, the stock's up 370%. Give us your call on Palantir.
I believe it's the next Oracle or Salesforce. Because my view when it comes to the AI revolution, this is probably the best software pure play in the market. Just like Nvidia on chips, this is how I view where Palantir is on the software side. And that's why, look, many have hated this. They hated this as a teenager to start the year, 12, 13. And they despise it as a senior citizen living in Florida at 80, right? So,
right.
And I believe this could ultimately be a stock that ultimately, when you look out, who could be the next Oracle Salesforce? I think it's Palantir.
Dan, go down the Apple income statement. Okay, I got single-digit revenue growth, and the gloom crew hangs on that, given the multiple 20, 30, wherever the multiple is. But the magic happens down the income statement to generate cash. Is any part of that system, given Paul's question on China, or frankly, another 6 worries, like, is what's going to happen in Silos season 3? But with any worries of Apple, is the cash-generating machine broken?
Free cash flow is going to increase 12 to 15% the next 2 to 3 years.
So what happens? Stop. What happens at the end of the month? At 4:22 p.m., when we go, OMG, China was light, but cash flow's up how much, Dan?
I believe cash flow probably beats 3 to 5%, and free cash flow for the year will be up 12 to 15%, which is why I believe this marks the bottom. I believe Apple is a stock.
Okay, so, good morning, Mr. Buffet. Mr. Buffet likes to listen when Dan Ives is on. Are you telling Warren Buffett at Berkshire to buy more Apple?
Oh, I think it's a table bounder because it's my view. You talk about Apple being light in the quarter, but they're going to announce an Apple Intelligent partner in the next few months. And then you ultimately are going to have 25% of the world's population. When they access AI, it's going to go through an Apple device. So my view is just, it's one, that's how so many have missed the last $2.5 trillion in market cap in Apple. They focus on the bears coming out. They own the narrative. They scare white knuckles. And then Cook and Cupertino come through and you're like, and that continues to be the mantra here. This is a name you own. You don't sell Apple, you own it.
Dan Ives drops some truth bombs and gushes about Nvidia steadily emerging as the torchbearer of the AI explosion, casting a spotlight that just got even brighter with Anthropic's ambitious funding plans. Riding on the coattails of AI advancements, reports suggest an astounding trajectory for Anthropic, with talks of a multi-billion-dollar deal that's stirring conversations in tech circles everywhere. But what does this mean for Nvidia and the AI domain as we prepare to venture into 2025? Let's unravel the suspense. Welcome back to Investocracy.
It's great to have you. So we had the update from Meta here this morning just in terms of their spending plans for AI exceeding the street's expectations. Is this a sign of just what's to come here over the next week or two?
Yeah, look, I think it's just get the popcorn out. Because in my opinion, this is the start of this massive build out of AI CapEx that I think the street's massively underestimated. I mean, think about the 80 billion number from Microsoft. Now you got Meta. And it's the multiplier. For every dollar spent on Nvidia chip, there's an $8 to $10 multiplier across the rest of tech. That's bullish for tech. And of course, with Trump and Stargate, I think it just shows this fourth industrial revolution just starting.
You hear of a $60 billion type of spend that is coming forward from Meta on that AI. What is the multiplier for Meta for those dollars that are going out and being invested into some of their efforts?
It's about use cases because ultimately, when you look at Meta, the AI capabilities on advertising, on subscriber growth, on ultimately building out businesses that don't even exist today. Because it's all about monetizing that install base. And there's no different than the way that the hyperscalers have done with Microsoft, Amazon, Google. And now it's going to be start playing out on the consumer side. And I think, look, Zuckerberg and Meta, they're one step ahead here in terms of where this is all heading. Clearly, Google's heading down the same path. And I think it just shows the street is underestimating what the growth's going to look like for tech, not just next week, but for 2025, 2026, where I think tech stocks are up another 25% this year, especially with a lot of the regulatory sweep the legs, in the Karate Kid reference, in terms of where that's all been going.
As the wheel of innovation spins, AI startups are igniting flames of investment enthusiasm. Anthropic, with its eye-catching leap from a $16 billion valuation to a prospective $60 billion, is testament to this relentless optimism. Though one might wonder if these AI ceilings are made of glass or steel. The data speaks volumes. Nvidia commands roughly 95% of the data center GPU market. Adding profound depth to this narrative, Amazon and OpenAI parade in Anthropic's halls with their own chips. Yet Nvidia emerges with an advantage due to its dedication to semiconductor innovation. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
Let's talk a little bit more about the regulatory efforts in the Trump administration, maybe the impact it's going to have on some of these names. Let's kick it off with Tesla since we're getting those results on Wednesday there. They've been the outperformer, the Mag 7, since we got the election results here of Trump. Dan, I'm curious, why is it viewed as such a catalyst here for Tesla, given the fact that we are going to see a bit of a clawing back here of some of those Biden-era policies that were very pro-EV?
Yeah, look, I think when you look at the $7,500 credit, and that's more of me being negative for new entrants, Detroit Big Three and others. For Tesla, the game here, I think 90% of what's going to drive the stock, it's the autonomous and the AI future. Because that's the ultimate story here. Because when you think about it, I think the autonomous piece could be worth $1 trillion alone. The biggest issue has been regulatory. That now is going to drastically change under the Trump administration. Obviously, Musk playing, I think, a strong role in terms of where this is all going. And that's why I think this stock is actually underestimating what this is going to do to the story in terms of cyber cabs, autonomous, FSD, robotics. And that's why I think there's a $2 trillion market cap. Next week starts what I believe is going to be a massive year ahead.
A lot of that regulatory red tape, though, has been delegated to the states with regard to the full self-driving and implementation on the roads. So to what extent do you expect a federal force to come forward and rescind that from the states and then it add into Tesla's outlook?
I mean, you nailed it, Brad, because, I mean, to me, that's where it's all going. It's going to be taken to the federal perspective, federal roadmap. Ultimately, where autonomous is going to go, you're almost going to need like a federal license to operate it, even on a fleet perspective. The states will have a role, but it goes back to you have to take it away from the kids at the little kids table at Thanksgiving. Federal needs to actually rule this because that's why when you look where this has gone, it's gone nowhere. And it speaks to like Trump coming in, a lot of these AI initiatives that start with Stargate. Autonomous is going to be the next piece, I think, in terms of a federal roadmap coming out. And that lays the groundwork for what's going to be a new age, when it comes to not just for Tesla, but I think when you think about Waymo and others and just overall autonomous.
All right, Dan, real quick, we only have about 20 seconds here, but also Tesla launching that new Model Y in North America and Europe. What do you think that pricing strategy is going to look like, just given the fact that we have seen consumers and many of these companies slashing prices in order to boost that volume?
It's a barbell. That's one, and I think they'll have the sub $35,000 vehicle they'll announce first half of this year. They're in a massive position of strength. But as we always say, haters will hate. But I think this is ultimately a stock that has a massive run this year. A lot of tailwinds, autonomous front and center.
Dan, thanks so much for taking the time. Look,
Thank you.
I guess I'll have to take a ride in a cybercab one day once they're available.
By next year, you'll be in a cybercab. Late next year, you and Saz will be in a cybercab.
Sounds good. We'll put it to the test. Thanks so much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Such gestures ink NVIDIA's signature onto the evolving parchment of AI, intertwining their legacy with emerging giants like Anthropic. In this vibrant AI theater, it's pivotal to note the intertwined destinies of these companies and NVIDIA's persistent frontier pushing. The escalating arms race shouldn't overshadow NVIDIA's strategic plays. After all, elbowing out NVIDIA resembles racing a Formula One car with a tricycle. Furthermore, the challenge of budding challengers like Amazon aligns with Matt Garman's statement of their AI processors supplementing, not replacing, NVIDIA's technology. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
I'm wondering, as an analyst who covers a lot of these names, at what point do you start actually modeling in? Do you wait until there are contracts, or do you acknowledge that there is some sort of expectation and therefore you get excited alongside? We saw the stock react in the late afternoon.
Yeah, look, Melissa, I think it's something you're going to have to start to model in. I mean, not just for names like Oracle, but especially when it comes to any of these sort of data center innovation plays, the Palantirs, Microsoft, and others. And I think now it's a question of the multiplier effect and how quick this is going to happen. But we're seeing this off to a fast start, and everything we're seeing in the Beltway, this is going to be just really, really positive for more of the data center players, from Microsoft, for Amazon, for Google, and of course for Oracle.
Hey, Dan, it's Dan. When you think about some of these numbers being thrown around, there's no specifics here. Microsoft gave some CapEx guidance, I want to say a few weeks ago. They kind of guided to maybe $80 billion in the next year or so. 40 of that was going to be overseas. Don't you get to a point where you can only build so much data center infrastructure here in the U.S., especially for these big multinationals who have to serve other places around the world? And the last part of this question is, and what about power consumption? Like, some point, there's only so much data centers you can build in the near term because you are power constrained.
Yeah, Dan, I mean, you hit on a great point, because the reality is we could talk about these CapEx numbers, but it's about you need the grid, you need the energy, and we could talk about nuclear and other names like ACO and others. But if you look on the data center side, I mean, there's essentially going to be more data centers under construction than actual data centers. But now, how quickly that gets built, and especially when we'll see it in earnings, but for Microsoft, for Amazon, for Google, the CapEx is there. But now it's about monetizing and how quick. That's what the street's going to be focused on for the next 2, 3, 4 quarters.
This unfolding saga sets a persuasive stage for investors keen on surfing the AI wave with NVIDIA. As market titans align themselves in the AI arena, NVIDIA carves its niche with a proven track record and visionary leadership that continually transcend conventional limits. Forecasts, supported by robust growth indicators, suggest NVIDIA is geared for something way bigger than its current state. But what's your take in this narrative? Join the conversation and share your perspective. Finally, if you would like to know what companies like NVIDIA have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.